Elephants are often nicknamed ecosystem engineers. According to the Journal of Mammalogy, they participate in habitat modification related to vegetation and water. These changes indirectly affect other species, especially herbivores, either positively or negatively. For example, African elephants topple trees and break branches. While this negatively affects tree populations, it is correlated with an increase in understory plants, as noted by the journal Ecology. This introduces new niches in the local landscape while also increasing biodiversity. Elephants affect the landscape itself. According to the journal Geomorphology, they can carve migration routes into the land, polish rocks by scratching against them, and compress soil. They notably leave depressions in the ground after digging for water, excavating mineral deposits, and applying dust to their skin. As such, elephants play key roles in shaping the world as we know it.
The ecosystem engineers of the African savanna are threatened due to poaching, which is the illegal hunting, capture, or killing of wild animals. While poaching affects a vast population of species across the globe, few have suffered to the severity of the African elephant. Unlike legal wildlife management or regulated hunting, poaching is driven by profit. Animals are targeted for valuable body parts that can be sold on black markets around the world. For elephants, it's their prized tusks made of ivory. To obtain it, poachers must utilize a wide range of methods. They track elephants by following water sources, using vehicles, drones, or even aircraft to locate herds. Once found, elephants may be killed with silenced firearms, trapped with snares, or wounded with weapons such as spears. When the elephant is immobilized and sometimes still alive, the tusks are removed with spears, cutting deep into the elephant's skull to reach the root of the tooth. As a process, that leaves behind a devastating scene with the mutilated elephant. The demand for ivory has transformed elephant poaching into a global crisis. As ivory prices rose during the 20th century, elephants were killed in staggering numbers. At the height of the crisis, one elephant was killed every 15 minutes, and conservationists say that tens of thousands of elephants were being killed every year due to poaching. Today, stronger laws and conservation efforts have reduced poaching in some regions, but the threat remains stable. If ivory retains value and the demand is there, elephants will continue to be targeted. To understand why elephants are poached for their tusks, we must first understand the history of poaching in the international market.
Elephants are the fourth most poached animal in the world due to high demand for their ivory tusks. The earliest form of poaching as we know it today is when the peasant class would kill animals belonging to the rich in order to sell the meat and skin for profit. With the age of exploration came the ability to trade wild animals between continents. Demand grew steadily over the next 500 years and exploded in the 20th century due to a larger proportion of society being able to afford small foreign animals such as tropical fish, or increased exposure to parts of the world considered unexplored or undeveloped. This increase in exposure caused trophy items from exotic species to be held in high regard. In the modern world, the wildlife trade is the third largest illegal international business. Elephants are the fourth most poached animal in the world, and elephant populations decreased drastically between 2010 and 2013 when ivory trade was partially legalized in a backfired attempt to dissuade poaching efforts. During this, Kenya and Tanzania were two of the most integral exporters. Today's illegal ivory trade flows primarily through Kenya and Mozambique. These are countries with some of the largest proportions of land set aside for wildlife protection, and therefore their close connection with the poaching industry is deeply concerning for the future of conservation. Despite these countries' best efforts, ivory is being harvested from elephants and exported every day.
Ivory is in such high demand because it's used to create products like piano keys, billiard balls, religious sculptures, and combs, and more for foreign markets. It's referred to as white gold due to its immense value. People love ivory for its beautiful appearance, durability, and how easy it is to carve. These qualities are what make it such a popular material. The ivory trade was banned in 1990, however this only led to the creation of the ivory black market, which runs rampant even today. China, Thailand, and Vietnam are some of the highest ivory importers. China in particular uses ivory for traditional medicinal practices. Many believe it causes skin regeneration, reduces fevers, and clears toxins. However, it has not been proven to do any of this. Ivory is made of dentin, the same material as the inside of our teeth, so consuming ivory just acts as a calcium supplement. Even though it is a pseudoscience, the ivory trade in China still persists because of the value for ivory for historical practices. Since China uses ivory in such high amounts, elephant poaching has increased greatly.
These Asian countries that are importing ivory are doing so illegally. It's then sold on the black market, running up to $2,000 per kilogram of raw ivory. Some pieces have a street value of up to $700,000. This impacts Africa in many ways, but one is a loss in tourism. Wildlife tourism is one of Kenya's major foreign exchange earns, and being one of the big five, elephants are some of the most sought-after sights on African safaris. This drives visitor demands and draws millions to come to countries like Kenya and Tanzania each year. The revenue from tourism impacts local communities immensely. People need a place to stay, things to eat, and souvenirs to buy. This creates jobs like local artisans, hotel staff, guides, and rangers, which are employing locals. Due to poaching, Africa as a whole loses about 25 million USD a year. People lose their livelihoods and communities suffer. Often these countries can receive a bad rep from poaching, which is detrimental to future tourism.
The economic effects go beyond tourism and the local communities. While analysis of the ivory trade is complex due to the multifaceted nature of the industry, supply and demand is always a favored approach to analyze the market. According to the World Bank Economic Review, when China, the country that held the most demand for ivory, banned its domestic market for ivory, it had the most negative effect on poaching recorded since the 1989 city's ban on trading elephant specimens internationally. However, the same review found that the supply of ivory was inelastic. This means that the supply of ivory changes very little when the price rises and falls. Ivory supply being inelastic may partially explain why poaching was never as rampant as legal killings, such as the decimation of the American bison, and also why the poaching market is so difficult to curb.
Ivory is notably known internationally as an easy way to make quick cash, which is part of the reason there is always supply to meet the demand. As such, groups across Africa have exploited this industry in order to fund militia, rebel, and terrorist groups. More importantly, however, government officials and organized crime syndicates are the main groups that profit off of the illegal sale and trade of ivory. Several countries that have recorded populations of elephants have also experienced tensions or full-scale conflicts within the past 20 years, which allows for the illegal ivory profit opportunities from both corrupt governments as well as militia groups. In countries such as the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the centralized government has limited authority and is extremely weak. This makes enforcing regulations against poaching practically impossible. This in turn allows for the virtually unchecked poaching and distribution of elephant tusks in order to fund groups such as the Lord's Resistance Army and the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Not just conflict-ridden countries suffer from rampant and illegal poaching, however. Insurgent groups are not the only predators. In countries that are stable and in times of peace, the government itself becomes a risk. Corruption grips the ivory trade that comes out of countries such as Tanzania. Government officials and wealthy citizens use the ivory trade as another form of income and use their power to execute the process. The bottom line is these groups and people are benefiting financially from the demand that comes from outside of Africa.
Exportation is a fundamental action in these groups and poaching as a whole. Most of this ivory is illegally farmed in Western and Central Africa, with most making its way towards Eastern and Southern African coastal hubs. Last year alone, it is estimated that 41,000 kilograms of ivory were exported from African countries. The two main methods of exportation are by boat for easy concealment and by airplane, with select airlines being used for their loose bag examination. Some of these airlines include Ethiopian Airlines, Kenya Airways, Emirates, and Turkish Airlines. However, a large portion of this ivory is exported from Eastern Africa via cargo shipments. The ports widely used in the trade are the port of Mombasa and the port of Dar es Salaam. Most of these shipments arrive in Asian countries such as Vietnam and Malaysia for various uses.
Attempting to curb the supply of ivory by targeting the demand has been successful to mitigate the issue. However, due to the inelasticity of supply, other methods such as law enforcement are needed. It is crucial that law enforcement occurs not only in locations where poaching is happening, but also on a global scale to block the trade of ivory. To squash the opportunity for illegal trade, all markets need to be closed with effective law enforcement. Effective global enforcement would increase the risk and lower the rewards of poaching. Law enforcement can be strengthened with technology. Mathematical models including pause, capture, and intercept have been designed and used to create patrol paths based on the behavioral patterns of poachers. Sensors similar to the camera traps used to capture animal behavior and monitor migration can be used to identify poaching. A network of wireless sensors, including ground and mounted sensors, UASs or drones, and the animal tracking or taggings, can be used for additional surveillance. Poaching isn't an isolated problem, just affecting animals. There is a consistent correlation between lower poaching rates and higher levels of human development. So while stringent bans and strict strategic enforcement have minimized poaching in the short term, for long-term success we need a more holistic approach.